The second that kid lifted his foot off the ground, sunlight flashing off that pricey sneaker of his, it felt like the whole world paused. I saw the girl lying there in the dirt, her clothes ripped, her face smudged, holding herself up with both arms trembling beneath her, and the look she gave him. Man, it was the kind of trembling heartbreak that could crack open anybody's chest. Well, anybody except that rich teenager standing over her like he owned the place. What he didn't realize, and honestly, he couldn't have, was that 10 motorcycles had just rumbled into the parking lot behind him. 10 Hell's Angels. 10 strangers who'd lived long enough and rough enough to recognize cruelty the second they saw it. They weren't just riders that day, they were witnesses. And when you've seen the world the way they had, you don't ignore moments like this. And hey, if you're watching this story play out and you believe in simple kindness, in giving folks a second chance, in stepping up for the people who can't defend themselves, do me a favor. Hit like, drop a comment, share it around, subscribe, and let us know down below where you're tuning in from. The girl was named Amelia Gray, 16 years old. She'd grown up trying to make sense of a world that always seemed too loud, too fast, and too uncaring. She was that quiet kid everyone overlooked. A soft-hearted soul who didn't want attention, didn't want anyone's pity. She just tried every single day to keep going. But life has this nasty habit of pushing hardest on the folks already carrying the heaviest weight. The boy was Logan Mercer, son of a wealthy businessman. A teenager who'd grown up with everything money could buy, except the one thing he needed most: empathy. To him, Amelia wasn't a person with dreams or fears or a heart. She was simply an easy target. Someone he could shove around to get a cheap laugh out of his buddies. Someone who wouldn't push back. Earlier that morning, he'd tossed her backpack into a mud puddle just because he could. But now, with the school parking lot empty, he'd crossed the line completely. He'd shoved her, taunted her, knocked her to the ground, and now he was lifting his foot to stomp on the little container of food she was carrying home. Her only meal for the whole day. My heart broke for her. Amelia wasn't scared for herself. No. What shook her was the thought of losing that food. She worked after school, cleaning classrooms, doing what she could because money at home was tight. That meal mattered. But Logan didn't give a damn. He swung his foot forward, and that's when the sound hit us. It started as this deep growl, a rumble in the air that made Logan freeze in mid-motion. Amelia turned her head, just in time to see 10 huge motorcycles rolling toward us from the far end of the lot. Black helmets, heavy leather vests, boots that had walked through fire, and stitched across their backs was a symbol you never mistake: the winged skull of the Hell's Angels. When their engines cut off, the silence that followed felt unreal. Amelia swallowed hard. She didn't know whether to be scared or saved. The men climbed off their bikes, and every one of them stood tall and rough-looking, the kind of guys that make the ground feel smaller beneath your feet. But their eyes, man, their eyes didn't shine with cruelty. They showed something Logan had never offered her: simple, human compassion. Their leader stepped forward. Big man, wide shoulders, streaks of silver in his beard, and this steady fire in his eyes. Folks called him Duke Hawthorne. He'd spent most of his life out on the open road, seeing humanity at its best and its absolute worst. And the moment Duke laid eyes on that scene, the girl on the ground, the bully looming over her, you could almost feel something shift inside him. It was like watching a storm gather behind a man's eyes. Even Logan sensed it. His voice shook as Duke walked toward him, and you could tell the kid was trying to straighten up, trying to puff himself back into someone impressive. But the truth was plain as day: he'd never felt smaller in his life. Duke didn't yell. He didn't throw out threats or try to scare anybody. He just stood there, taking in the mess. Amelia sitting in the dirt, her food spilled. Logan's foot still raised like he wasn't sure what to do next. And the look on Duke's face said more than any shouting ever could. It wasn't rage, it was disappointment. And man, disappointment from someone like Duke hits harder than anger. I watched Amelia swallow, her throat tightening with something she almost never allowed herself to feel in public: relief. Somebody had finally stepped in for her. Somebody saw her hurt and didn't pretend not to. A couple of the bikers moved toward her, gentle as could be. They helped her to her feet, brushed the dirt off her clothes, checked if she was injured. And then Duke knelt beside her. Seeing a big man like him lower himself that way, it was something. His voice came out soft, warmer than she ever expected. He handed her a bottle of water, a clean cloth, and something she hadn't been given in a long time, her dignity back. While all this happened, Logan's confidence just crumbled. Duke walked over to him, slow and steady, every step sounding like a reminder that actions have weight. Logan tried to spit out excuses, explanations, anything to dig himself out. But the words tangled up in his throat. Somewhere inside, I think he knew this was the day he was finally going to face something money couldn't shield him from. Duke never laid a hand on the kid. Instead, he hit him with a single question, simple, clean, and sharp enough to go straight through him. Why would you hurt someone who's already carrying more weight than you ever will? For the first time in his life, Logan Mercer didn't have a single answer. Duke turned away from him after that. The angels gathered Amelia's things, fixed what they could, and told her they'd make sure she got home safely so she wouldn't have to walk alone. She hesitated, of course, anyone would, but Duke told her they weren't there to scare her. They were there to protect her. The ride home was nothing like what people imagine when they think about bikers roaring through town. It wasn't loud or wild, it was quiet, steady, almost peaceful, protective in a way that wrapped around her like a shield. When they pulled up to her house, her mom stepped outside and burst into tears, not out of fear, but out of pure, overwhelming gratitude. Life hadn't been gentle with their family, and kindness like that, well, it wasn't something they saw often. Before the angels left, Duke placed a small cloth patch in Amelia's hand. It read, "Strength is born from struggle." He told her to keep it close, to remember she wasn't nearly as alone in this world as she thought. Word about what happened spread through town faster than a spark on dry grass. Kids who'd never once defended Amelia suddenly started speaking up. Teachers who had always overlooked her quietly began asking if she was doing all right. And Logan, shaken, humbled, and staring down the weight of his own cruelty, came back to school a different person. Still flawed, still learning, but trying, really trying. And that counts for something. It didn't erase what he'd done, but it changed the direction he was heading. As for Amelia, she didn't just get stronger because someone stepped in. She grew stronger because someone finally saw her. The angels didn't just stop a bully that day, they helped reignite something inside her. A spark she'd lost somewhere along the hard road she'd been walking. If this story hit you even a little in the heart, take a second to like the video, leave a comment, and share it so more folks can see what standing up for others really looks like. And before we wrap up, drop in the comments. What would you have done if you saw what those angels saw?